Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So very excited to be here. So excited to have Honeywell and Karen here with us again. So one, I want to thank you all for joining us and highlighting the importance of this event. And before we get started, I just wanted to kind of lay it out. Like, you know, we are thrilled to be here as HBEN, but I think overall this summit really highlights our focus on growth, our focus on our talent strategies, and our focus, quite frankly, on our 9 employee networks. So thank you both sincerely for continuing to sponsor this event. And so to get it started, you know, and Karen, I'll start with you. How would you define the connection between our business growth and our employee engagement at Honeywell?
Yes, great question. So thank you for having us, first of all. I saw a sign up there that said swag, and I was like, oh, you guys swag. So I'm glad that we're giving you some goodies to take home as well with Honeywell on them. So I think the employee networks are just critical for growth and for our engagement of our talent. So our ability to attract talent, our ability to retain talent, our ability to develop talent, all 3 of those things, the employee networks can play a huge role in, helping us attract people from different backgrounds, helping us retain them, because there's kind of stickiness and glue that comes with having a sense of community, feeling like you're part of something bigger, feeling like you're contributing to something bigger. And then there's a lot of development that can happen with our mentoring circles, with participation on projects. You learn a lot about leading people laterally that don't report to you when you're leading some of these projects, right? There's a lot of good development that comes with leading efforts associated with employee networks. And all of that helps fuel growth. Growth is really fueled by people that have ideas, and innovation comes from people and ideas. And so our employee networks can really help us play a really big role in developing and building our talent base to drive and fuel that growth.
Then we'll ask you the same question.
I would say I think even more so than any other time with employee networks, I really feel that we made a good decision whenever we did 4 or 5 years back. Because the purpose of that is even more critical today, because we are going through, you know, there's a 2-dimensional change which is going on right now. Honeywell is changing itself, spreading into 3 companies for the good reason. You know, it's not that we have any problem, but we are doing, but it's definitely a big change for all of us. It's going to mean things differently. So this employee network certainly provides a platform for you to understand implications, what each of you are experiencing, and provides an alternative forum, right? You hear things directly from us, but hearing from your peers, from your network, gives you additional opportunity. At the same time, I think there is a social change going on with a different dialogue on DEI is good, DEI is bad, ESG is not good, right? And there's a change. And different people have different opinion on that. Again, employee network is an important cohort to kind of really understand and think about why it's changing, are we experiencing the change? So to me, not more than any other time in context of where we are in Honeywell, this is a great movement that we should leverage our employee networks. And it provides us a platform by which we can have an alternative channel to review some of these changing circumstances at this point in time.
So Velma, I'm going to pull on that thread a little bit about change. So from your perspective, how have you seen employee voices and the Honeywell culture kind of evolve as the company has grown and transformed over this past 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, look, companies can organize differently, but can also drive employee engagement / employee voice differently, right? There are multiple choices, and there's no perfect choice. It's not that one can say that you organize this way, this is the best way to do it, or you drive in a certain manner, that's the best way to do it. I always believe that you have to make employees as part of the conversation and decision making. I think part of it is influenced by because I grew up in the organization, so I can feel and connect with the people, and I feel that inputs are important. So what we have been changing since I started 2023 is how we make that employee conversation as part of our dialogue and people feel inclusive in the decision making. And it's not easy. In a large company with 100,000 people, how do you see that what's my role? And it's always been challenged that we can all feel that my role is less. Some people, somewhere in the ether, make a lot of decisions. And how do you feel inclusive in the decision making to say, I have a voice, I have a say, my work matters, my contribution matters, and it's not easy. But I think every step we are putting towards it, it just makes it, we progress one step at a time. And I think the VOE survey is a good indication where our inclusiveness score has gone up by 4 points. So it's a good direction. The direction of travel is right. We are going in the same direction, not in opposite direction. Is it enough? I don't know, I think. But at least we are trending in the right direction. So more and more employee participation in the decision making. How do we have decision rights clarified and decision rights delegated down? Both are important to me. And we are increasingly doing work on both sides to say, we will make sure that we could delegate more where it's possible. But where it's not possible, also explain why the decision rights are the way they are. Because half the time confusion is, you believe you can make a decision and you feel upset that there's a barrier to execution. Nobody explains to you why it's set up that way. If somebody explains to you, you can't do that. There's a reason behind it. There are constraints we have. Then at least you feel satisfied that, okay, I'm not allowed to do it because like you can't drive until you're 18. Now you can debate it, I can drive when I'm 15. You say, but the law doesn't allow you to do that. It's a great example because you can feel upset. But you can say, okay, but I understand, nobody else can do it, so I can't also do that. Because training is also important, but delegation is also important.
Thank you for that. So Karen, I think about the employee networks, all the things that happen in our employee networks. How important are they to our people strategy?
Well, they're critical to our people strategy for the reasons that I described earlier. I mean, I think each employee network is a little bit unique. I don't think they're necessarily all of them are the same, right? Some of them are more mature and have been around for longer. Some of them are brand new. Some of them are focusing on a certain portion of our population where it's a little bit easier to see where the connection to the business strategy and growth could be, and some of them are less connected to that, right? But I think that's fine. I think each one of them, you need to think through what are the needs of your constituent group, and then how can you help drive growth at Honeywell? How can you help with our people strategy at Honeywell? But all of them, all 9 of them, can help us attract, develop, and retain people. Because it's all, to me, about a sense of community. How do people want to join the sense they feel like they belong, right? When they get to Honeywell, have kind of a welcoming committee almost of people who are like them and similar to them. And then there's retentive, ability there too, because people build friendships, they build relationships, they can get their work done easier because of this network they can draw on, and whatever function they're in, they can find other people who have faced similar challenges. So there's a lot of things about the employee networks that are really help us to be a better company and are really very critical to our people strategy.
So Bill, I'm going to pivot to you. We are, truly living in a time, lots of stuff happening, both in the business and, private professional areas and arenas. But I wanted to ask you this question. So in a competitive environment, how do you kind of balance the need for speed and agility, right? You have to be first in the market sometimes, and then also building an inclusive and engaged workforce?
I think the both have to go hand in hand. I don't think they are two opposite things. Dave Cody always used to do is, Cricket always do two opposing things simultaneously. You grow while you drive productivity. I think it's something similar that our key objective of Honeywell is to drive growth. That's something we haven't really stated as a priority for last 10 years. We never said you don't want to grow. It's not that we were saying and waking up to say don't grow, but we said that growth is the highest priority at this point of time. But also building an inclusive culture also is a priority. And I think we are demonstrating that we can do the both simultaneously. They both go hand in hand. Given nature of our business, we do want representation of all types of people, all types of parts, because it represents our customers, it represents our, the larger social system in which we all live. So I don't think the two are, the two will absolutely coexist. And there is always hurdles in everything you want to do, and you need to overcome them, right? I mean, it's like any other management principle. You have a goal, you start executing it, you have an issue, you manage your issues through managing the risk, and then you keep moving here to the next part here. So I don't see, if you see our own progression towards improving inclusiveness in Honeywell over the last 5 years. You see the trend line of every type of diverse population, be it women, be it African American employees, be it Latinos, all types of people, they're all trending up. And the rate of change is actually increasing over a period of time. So even the curve was slow, not only the curve is accelerating in the right direction, but the pace is also growing, which means that we're able to deliver on our commitment on being an inclusive culture, but also now we are delivering more on growth. If you see last quarter, it's the first time in many years, I don't know if many of us can take our results for granted. So after several years, the 3 SVPs grew more than 5%. It's not happened for a long time. And we should be proud of it. I mean, not industrial companies don't grow at that rate. Industrial companies are not good at growth. They get complicated, they don't focus on foundational elements of what enables growth, which is new products at the end of the day. And we're putting a lot of effort and focus on that, and you can see the results now. So we are delivering on growth. We are going to maintain that momentum. We are going to be delivering on inclusive culture, and I don't see any reason any of them is going to stop.
So I wanted to ask both of you this question because clearly, there are people leaders in the room, there are individual contributors in the room, but when it comes to our leaders, how do you all set those expectations for leaders supporting our networks and the inclusion engagement work that the talent engagement team executes on?
Yeah, so I'll start. So I think in our goal number 5 for people leaders, the foundational principles are in goal number 5. It's the same goal for all people leaders, and it says that you will support our foundational principles. And inclusion and engagement is one of our foundational principles, inclusion and global mindset. And so we expect managers to support the employee networks and to support what we're doing on all of the diversity fronts and the engagement initiatives that we have in place. That's the part in our performance management process where we need to reward people for completing things in this area, or conversely, call it out if they're not being supportive of employees to participate in these kinds of initiatives. So I think we try as much as we can to talk about this as a foundational principle for us as a company, and then we do have a process as part of our performance management process to be able to hold people accountable for that. But it's not okay for a manager to say, oh, I don't want my people involved in this. I have too many other things happening. This is good for Honeywell. It's good for our company and our people. It's good for our employees from a development standpoint. It is not okay for managers not to support that. And so we really need to pull in the HR leader to help with things like that so we see that happen because it really is a critical part of our people strategy.
I'm going to reinforce that point what Karen said. I mean, evaluating people on the foundation behavior, inclusiveness being one of them. Like we all have other mutual respect, safety, etc. So this is something is a good way for us to enforce that capability into the people and call out underperformers and make sure that becomes a driver for change. But also will say the point which Karen said earlier, for many of you which are playing an extended role as part of the employee network, many of you take the role of leadership of your chapters or some special responsibility you take, it's very hard to work to influence because you don't have any specific job title or people don't report to you and so on. So it's hard to do it, but the skill you learn here is going to be quite valuable as part of your job progression, as part of your career progression. There's absolutely no doubt about that. The hardest thing to do as a leader is to work through influence. That's the hardest. Easiest thing is to do is to work through authority. I'm your manager, you will do the following, people have no choice. So something we need to be conscious of, organization is going to enable a few things through the tools which we mentioned, but at the same time you also have an opportunity to continue to work through influence to drive the change you're looking for.
So Karen, we have upwards of 17,000 future shapers that are sitting inside of our employee networks. We're working for more, but I just want you to know. We're steadily growing. But Karen, how do you see our employee networks really influencing our internal talent pipelines?
Yes, great question. So I think they can go. I think it can go both ways. It can go two ways. One is as we identify people that participate in these networks, and we work through DJ and some of the folks that are leading these networks, there's talent that gets sort of validated with visibility that we didn't have before. And so being able to look at that talent and saying, are they on succession plans? Are they people that should be considered for other roles? That's a natural part, a natural role that the networks can play in terms of us giving visibility to talent for bigger and bigger jobs. Actually, it's funny, yesterday it came up because Bill and I do a quarterly skip level with African American employees and a quarterly skip level with women. And in both of them, the idea was raised of should we use the employee networks more to look at the content of some of our development programs and give feedback. Does it seem like appropriate? Does it seem relevant to a broad set of employees? Is there anything we're missing that we could be including? I thought it was a great idea. We had not previously done that, but that's something we're going to start doing. And so having the networks influence the leadership development programs, but then also having the talent identified and included in the pipeline processes that we have, I think both of those things are ways that we can connect the networks to the leadership development in the pipeline.
That's great. So, Noel, I'm going to ask you just a personal question, right? So, what have you personally learned from all the employee networks, right? So, we have 9 of them. They're global. I know that you're in a lot of different spaces. So, what are some things that you've learned as a result of being a part of and influencing our employee networks?
I think the best thing is the most value I'll get is we do this quarterly check-ins with African American and Women Employee Network. We do it every quarter. We've been doing it for almost since our last year. I think it's a good way to kind of check in every 90 days the changing messages, because what I observe is the messaging changes, and it's a cohort of typically 15 to 20 people. It's a big enough, small enough group to have good conversation. And I think certainly you see the trend lines, what people are feeling good about, what people are feeling bad about, both organizationally and overall. And I think certainly that's very valuable to see the things we are driving, what's the feedback loop. And it's the best way. I mean, other than that, I don't get many opportunities to be part of employee networks.
It's fine.
So certainly I think that's a great way to touch point, to have a touch point with them.
Good deal. So, in wrapping up here, I'm going to ask you both the same question, but, and when you mentioned this, I think DJ even kind of alluded to this, right? So, this company is about to experience some big changes, right? So, we're not going to look the same in a year or so. But I'm curious to know from you, even as we move forward, what do you want to see from the employee networks? What types of initiatives or focus areas? What is your future vision for our employee networks?
I mean, as I said, employee network is an important part for us to go through this change which is occurring. So you can be an enabler and help us escalate issues if you see something which is not under program and the things are going off rate. So certainly you have the responsibility to your network leaders. So certainly you should do that. But I also expect that as we spin into 3 companies, we're able to sustain the momentum we have in employee network. We don't want to lose it. Now, in Solstice business, probably scaling, living up to 9 employee networks may be harder because they're only less than 4,000 employees. But in the both aerospace and remaining Honeywell, or new Honeywell, what we call it, there's enough scale. So there's no reason for us not to have continuity here. So how are we going to have a plan to continue the same way what we have? Do we have network leaders in place for both organizations in future state, for example? Different chapters have been built in, or the chapters still start with the right set of leaders? Certain cadence we have built in, and how do we sustain that cadence? So I won't take that lightly. We should not say that, okay, it'll happen because we want it to happen. Everything needs a plan. Everything which is a process, it needs a plan. So my expectation is this is something which is working well for us. So as part of separation, one thing I want to ensure is that this continues the same set of pace, same set of momentum, what we have today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think for all of the networks, all 9 networks, I think helping us attract, retain, develop talent is critical for all 9 networks. Beyond that, each network can be in a little bit of a different place and understand what their constituents want. Right? It could be mentoring, it could be further development, it could be guest speakers, it could be ways of developing their people. With like the accessibility network, they're very passionate about building accessibility into our products. And so they're more integrated with engineering to figure out how do we make our products more accessible for the end users. They're super excited about that and passionate about that. For our Veterans Network, there may be more in the defense world that they can do in terms of giving feedback on products and really, using their specific expertise to help enable our products in a different way. So I think each network, they all play a role in attracting, developing, and retaining talent. But beyond that, I think the base of constituents like HBEN, you all should help fuel DJ and the team to figure out what is it that you care most about and that you can get some momentum behind and be passionate about driving. That could be growth-oriented, it could be development-oriented, but I think there's room for variability within the networks to figure out what they're most excited and passionate about driving.
Well, Vimal, Karen, I want to thank you both for offering your valuable insights, and more importantly, I want to thank you for your ongoing commitment to inclusion and engagement at Honeywell. So let's give them a round of applause. So with that, we're going to open it up. I'm going to ask the HBEN team to help us run some mics across the room. So we're going to open it up for Q&A. Who's going to be our first brave question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Vimal, Karen. Thank you, Bria. So my question is, global mindset was added, as you mentioned. Karen is one of our foundational principles. Why was that added? What does it look like? And how can the employee networks members cultivate that global mindset?
I think the global mindset addition came into the fact that we used to have, when we had 12 behaviors, this was one of the behavior. So then it disappeared because we said we need less behavior because 12 is too many. It's kind of, I think the key is that as inclusiveness is a big part of our priority, and we have a conversation on that today. Same is true of inclusiveness for a company like us, which operates at global scale. We have people and our employees and our customers in multiple countries, and having an understanding on their background, their appreciation or lack of appreciation of a particular point of view is important in global mindset. Things like, there are some basic things, if you are setting up a call in Asia, they don't start working before 9 o'clock. So never do that. I mean, it's 7 o'clock is too early. People don't even wake it up at that time. So you need to know that. If you don't know it, you don't have a global mindset because you are, forcing your culture, your beliefs on someone else. And that goes into our conversation, the words we use, the languages we use, the expressions we use, and it just becomes complex the more we think about it. And I think it's an important element that we as a company, we all deal with our peers all over the world. Many of that happens with email, but email conversation also matters. How do you address people? How do you have a dialogue with them? So I think it's already is sensitivity towards the type of businesses we have, both with our customers and our employees, to learn more about it. I think it's a curiosity as a human being. We should be understanding what things mean to other cultures, other set of people, other gender, races, all of that. And that's why we're reinforcing global mindset as part of our foundational value.
I would just add that new Honeywell will be much more global than current Honeywell. Current Honeywell is 50% US, 50% non-US. New Honeywell is going to be more like 2/3 non-US, 1/3 US, or 60-40 kind of split. So we've got to become much more global in our approach and in the way that we think about our organizations. I think that employee networks also can think about how to become more global. And DJ was telling us yesterday on one of our calls that HBEN, for example, is doing some things with Canada around their emancipation, and we're doing some presentations around what does that mean and some training and development there. And Brazil has a lot of interest in connecting with HBEN, some of our employees in Brazil. And so thinking more globally about adding participants and educating each other on things that happen in other countries in ways that that are relevant to the community, I think is a way to help connect employee networks on a more global basis. But I agree with Bill. We've all got to become more sensitive from an inclusion perspective about how do we work more effectively across regional boundaries and work together and do that in a more effective way.
I've been with Karen. Just had a pretty straightforward question. Let's see the nature of the question. So I was wondering, so when we do the spin-off, will we have the option to invest in other two companies? So I'll be aerospace, or will I have the option to invest in those other two companies?
Yeah, I mean, the way this thing works is everybody, anybody owns a Honeywell stock, you get additional stock now for Solstice coming up in Q4 this year, and you get additional stock for Honeywell Aerospace. So if our current stock price is hanging around $225, so $225 will get split into 3 numbers, which hopefully add up to 225 at least. If not more. Likely it will, because that's how the markets will decide the value of it. So I think we all have right to own. Now, if you get those, you get to keep it, or you can sell it. That's how it works. But as an individual, you of course can own any stock, all of them, or multiple of them. So, but I think if our strong belief is that one of the reasons we have done it is there is a value unlock through this separation, because how investors are investing have changed over the last 10 years. In 2015, if you just take a 10-year snapshot, 2025, go back 2015, people were very comfortable investing in companies which had a large portfolio, like GE, like UTC, like Honeywell, etc., because they believe that large companies bring best practices and they make all businesses better. And today, they believe that all those best practices have been deployed, and that model of having a large company making multiple businesses better has maxed out. So now is the era of specialization, and you should specialize in something and grow your business. So therefore, specialization in aerospace, specialization in automation. We still have a scale. We are not only small companies, but it's just aligning with the investment pieces or investment priorities. Because we are doing that, we should therefore go to value capture because they believe in it. So the way we are organized today, they feel it's an outdated model, and therefore there's a less attraction for them compared to other choices we have. So you have to move with the time and be reflective of what our shareholders want. Being a public company, you have to be respectful of that.
I heard you both mention and agree with the question as far as the importance of having the ERGs in the new world with display other companies and how it is an important factor to have. I know you really mentioned that like Solstice will be kind of small, so maybe having like a full 9 may not be as feasible to start. But my question is kind of in this transition period and knowing that it is an important aspect, what steps are being taken to make sure that when those happen, that we're kind of at a good starting place instead of starting with nothing and then having to build off what we already have going currently. Why is that?
So I think we have 2 somewhat different situations with Solstice and with aerospace. Aerospace is going to replicate what we have. So we have the 9 networks, we have HBEN and SVP and SVP and all the partnerships, and so Andy, Byerly, and Bria are going to lead that effort to make sure that we have leaders identified in both places, that we have those partnership agreements in place for both organizations. We may partner together for some period of time, or maybe even ongoing at some of these conferences and share a booth for a period of time. Certainly we'll do that next year, but maybe even beyond that. So I think aerospace and new Honeywell will be pretty much replicated. They'll be running in parallel. Solstice, because they have to be, think about this in a little bit smaller scope, they only have 4,000 employees, so they're not like a 100,000 person company like we are. So 9 employee networks would probably be too much for them. They may not be able, they may have to pick 2 or 3, they may not be able to do all of the conferences that we do, they may not be able to do all of the partnerships that they do. So I actually just connected with Jason Clifford yesterday on this topic. He's the CHRO of Solstice, and he said, make sure that anytime you have to talk about this, make sure everyone knows that I deeply care about employee networks and about this topic. They're just about to hire their talent engagement person and their talent management person, and I know the person's working with Leah on a proposal of how to appropriately scale it and scope it, and then they'll review that with me, and I'll sign off on it, and then we'll see it as well, and we'll approve it. But we're letting them define what they think they need in terms of how to scale that. But on the aerospace side, it'll basically be a straight replication of what we have. Great question.
First off, thank you for coming to speak to us today. The thing that I want to ask you about is we all know in this room that DEI is under attack. And because we have so many corporate contracts, government contracts, what I need to find out as far as our path forward is, as you look at the ERGs, how are we prepared to defend having ERGs and DEI here at Honeywell? Because as we all know, they're coming. So what are we doing to make sure that when they come, we're ready?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we had a full legal review of everything we're doing. I mean, everything that we do from a DEI standpoint several months ago, before we announced the changes that we were going to make. So our lawyers basically said, sort of here's the things that we can continue to do that are not problematic in any way, shape, or form. Here are the things we can no longer do, which is a much smaller list, by the way. It's actually a pretty small list. And then here's some things that might be considered gray area. And so we had multiple reviews, we talked through all of that, we went through, and then we made a decision and said, here are the changes we're going to make. And then you saw us in the town hall a few months ago say these are the changes we're going to make. But our attorneys have looked at that very thoroughly. So things like diversity of slate in the U.S. is considered illegal according to the executive orders. And we know that we're not going to break laws, and so that we had to make a change with that. Employee networks, employee resource groups, whichever term you want to use. The reason that we believe that we can continue to do those is because we make them open to everyone. If we excluded people, and that's really a litmus test for a lot of these programs, if you exclude people and say you can only join HBEN if you are African American, if you are not African American, you cannot join HBEN. We would be challenged for that. They would basically say you're not allowed to do that. But for all nine networks, and we have about 10% of our population within the networks that do not belong to that particular community, so it's not like it doesn't happen. I mean, we have 10%, it's a pretty big number. The reason that we are able to defend our employee networks and continue them is because we make it open for everyone. Now, we've done that with some of our programs that were specifically designed for a specific population. We've opened those up a bit, and we've invited some other people to attend and to join those, so we're able to continue to do those things because we haven't said it's exclusively for a particular group. So we have really looked at this very carefully from a legal perspective. We went up to our board. We presented to the board multiple times on this topic. What the lawyers have told us, what we're able to do. So we feel very confident and very strongly that what we have in place and what we've communicated, we can continue to proceed with, and then we will be able to defend that if we're challenged in some way through the administration.
I think another important point for us is that we as a company never went to the stream of these policies and did any hiring based upon quota of certain type of people. Everybody was hired because of their merit. Everybody in this room is here because you deserve the job, not because of who you are. You're actually capable. You competed with everybody else and you got the job. This has been the principle of Honeywell. Because that's our principle, we are not scared of anything. We haven't done anything wrong. We are promoting an inclusive culture. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't have any quota to say hire so many of these and so many of that. And companies which went into that direction, they basically got caught into this new environment. We never had to deal with it. Therefore, our changes were more modest, and they were more around purely compliance driven to say, you can't do this because it's unlawful. Okay, we'll have to deal with that, but because our foundational values are more driven by culture change and strong belief in it, I don't see that the adjustment we have made changes how we operate. Because we believe in something, outwardly there are a few things we cannot do it, that's fine, but fundamentally the things are not changing. That's what keeps us going the way we are.
Yeah. So even just to clarify, even on diversity of slate, where we did have a target where we said every slate has to have certain elements of diversity, we never said you had to hire
Of course.
certain people, right? We never said X percentage of your hires have to be African American, or have to be women, or have to be. There are a lot of companies who did do that, and then they're changing a lot of what they do. We've always done it based on merit. We've always done it, but really the diversity of slate concept was about visibility, making sure that you have visibility to talent, making sure that you are considering a diverse group of people, and then you pick the person that you think makes the most sense for the role. But we're confident that you can defend it legally.
Good morning, my name is Patrick Scott. I just want to say thank you all for joining us today for this summit. I had a quick question. So as someone who is still within the first 5 years of their career, what things did you all do in order to take that next step to go up in your career?
That's a great question. So I always tell people that are up and coming in their career, when you get into a role, your manager is going to give you a certain set of tasks and say, I want you to do this and this and this, right? You want to do those as well as you possibly can and put all your effort and energy into doing those, but you also want to look at other things where you have skills and look for other problems and ways you can add value. To me, some of the most valuable people I have on my team are people who can do what I ask them to do, but also lean in and look and go, oh, that's a problem, I can fix that. I think we have a problem over there, and I have a background to be able to go, oh gosh, I didn't even know you knew anything about that. Yes, absolutely, go solve that problem too, right? And so really leaning into your role and looking at where can you add value in what you're being asked to do, but also beyond what you're being asked to do, to me is the best way to get noticed, for people to say, oh my gosh, this person is really phenomenal, we should consider them for bigger jobs. Once you're rolled in, they start to go, oh, I should give them this, because your job starts to expand, then you're really going to start to be considered for promotions and getting that next opportunity. I also think collaboration is super key. I mean, people who are willing and able to collaborate across functions, across business lines, people who don't care about credit, they're not worried about that, it's about the company, it's about getting to an outcome, it's about doing what they need to do to make things better. To me, those are always great characteristics as well. Versus people who are kind of like elbowing everybody out of the way to try to get to something. It's like, that's not how we operate, right? I mean, we need to work as a team and we need to work and collaborate, so those behaviors are important as well.
I mean, to add to what Karen said, the first point I always make is you do a job to come 9 to 5 and get your paycheck, or it's your passion. When the job becomes a passion, you might fall through because you're enjoying it, right? You're immersed in the work, you're learning. It's not like a mechanical thing. I have to come and punch some emails and send some messages. So there's a difference between a job and a passion. So if you enjoy your work, then you learn more. And the second, as the job opportunities come in, there's no bad role. Every opportunity is good. More diverse it is, better it is. What I mean by that is if you're getting a new job opportunity in which you have lesser skills which are feeling comfortable. On one hand, we are humans, so we get uncomfortable with the things we don't know or we see for the first time because that's human nature. But in a way, it's a good news because you're going to do things which you don't know. So that's how you're going to expand your skills. And more you put yourself into uncomfortable positions, more you will learn through that process. It's never easy. I'm not going to say that jumping and trying to do things which you don't know is easy. There's a risk element involved in that. But the reward is always greater than the risk there. So those are the 2 points that I always make.
Good morning, my name is Contessa Dorsey, and I want to say thank you for your pivot on diversity of slate. As a hiring manager, I like the new opportunity to look at all the different candidates and see what the demographic is in the area to make sure I'm matching it. So I don't know if everyone was aware of that, so I did like that pivot. But my question was in reference to your leadership opportunities. You say you speak with the women's group and the African American groups, but my question is more so around how can we make it more accessible or available? A lot of those opportunities I wasn't aware of in my first 10 years with Honeywell, and I'm just finding out about them now. So how can we make it more accessible so we know about those opportunities?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the larger the company gets, the more difficult it is for people to be aware of opportunities, right? Because you've got 100,000 employees in 81 countries. And so, getting that awareness. One of the things we've tried to do with the Accelerator is create career paths and career and academies in there so that you can see paths that other people have taken to get to certain jobs, and then opportunities for you to develop in those areas for you to continue down that path. That's one way that we are trying to get more visibility to. I mean, the talent hub and the jobs that are actually posted, people can get to directly. But in terms of thinking about their career path, and what experiences do I need to get, what jobs do I need to get to a certain type of role, those academies and accelerator are going to be super helpful for that.
That CM system should help now, because that CM system is going to, that was one of our biggest disadvantage today, limitation. That roles were limited within a set of business or a function, they were narrowed down because the system did not allow that visibility. With that CM, it becomes a LinkedIn of Honeywell. All managers can look up people whose skills match. It's early days, that CM is like 60 days old. For a period of time as it matures, it's a two-way street. It's like a job market. You should be able to look up the jobs which are there across Honeywell, and managers should be able to look up the people who have the that skill set. The only condition will put is you're in your current role for a defined period of time, typically 3 years. But so you don't jump job every 6 months. That can create chaos. But I think that same system is going to allow far more visibility compared to what it was so far.
Yeah. Just to clarify, it stands Human Capital Management System. So it's our new HR tool that when you go into HR Direct, the new tool is there. We haven't populated skills yet that he's talking about. We're starting that in Q4. But once employees have their skills in the system, there are skills that are mapped to roles, and it'll start to match the two. And so it'll even make suggestions. If you have in your career individual development plan that you want these certain types of roles, or you want to learn these certain skills, the tool will suggest opportunities that are coming available that would help you get those skills. So the new HCM will help us become much more skills-based in terms of how we approach talent management. And like Bill said, it's like an internal LinkedIn. You're like, I need someone who has this skill set, and you can find them quickly. Or I want to learn this skill set, who has it? Or there's jobs that have certain skill sets. How do I get those roles? The skills become the currency within that system. But we just deployed the basics right now, and we're going to move, starting in Q4, to more of the skills base. So you'll start to see that evolve over the next year or two in terms of how that all comes together. That's going to help with the visibility mission.
Thank you.
So I think we have time for 2 more questions.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for joining us here today. It's been great to see you. It's great to hear your comments and your thoughts. I had a question about leadership. And how you guys view it. As I think through my time here at Honeywell, and think about where I'm from, which is Guyana, South America, we often have a saying that is, the empty barrel makes the most noise, right? So as it rolls down the street, a barrel with a pebble in it makes a lot of noise, but there's nothing of value that's really a part of it. But the barrel that's full of things, riches, fineries, silks, full to the brim, will roll down the street and not make much noise. And I kind of compare that to Honeywell, which has this great operating standard, this tremendous leadership capability, and it has a tremendous amount of rigor in building that leader internally, but doesn't necessarily export that as a brand throughout the rest of the world, as a GE does, or UPS does, or some other companies do. And I think that in doing that, they're able to drive affinity to their alumni as they leave the company, that those employees wrap themselves around that brand because they know it leads to greater growth opportunities. And then when they have opportunities to do business with that, alma mater company, they then are able to they look for opportunities to do that. I don't think that we take as much advantage of that as maybe we should. So as we start thinking about branding the new Honeywell, as opposed to just being a part of everything that everybody does, how do we look at really unlocking that value and making sure that our alumni, as they go forth in the world, are able to come home to the Honeywell brand, are able to promote that in each and everything they do, opening new opportunities for us and for those people who are part of the company. So how do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the barrel analogy, by the way. I mean, you're basically filling your barrel as you go through different experiences and get different. So as Bill said earlier, the breadth of the experiences you get, fill that barrel with a lot of broad experiences, and you become eligible for a lot more opportunities, right? And promotional opportunities. So I think it's we have had a lot of discussions around the fact that our brand as a company is not well known in a lot of countries in the world in particular, and then even here in the US in some places. And that we don't take advantage enough, to your point, of making it a magnet for talent, and that people know and think about the brand relative to talent. We do have a full branding activity that's being launched. You will all be getting a survey within the next, I think it's next week that it's going out. You'll all get a survey. We'll ask you to fill out to give us data to help us with the brand. But we're looking at the brand of aerospace and Honeywell kind of separately to say what should the value proposition be for joining aerospace as an employee, as a customer, as an investor, and then what is the value proposition within Honeywell. And so we're going to be shaping those messages and shaping that. Because as we go forward, we might as well kind of start fresh as the two organizations. It's a little bit confusing, frankly, when you're, as we are now and as we've been over the last, as this multi-industry mega company operating in all these different industries, it is more challenging to talk about your brand and what your value proposition is for employees. It becomes simpler when you separate the company and say, here's who we are, and here's what we do, and here's what's exciting about coming and joining us or rejoining us. And then the same with aerospace. So I think we're going to make progress on that as we come into the spin and we exit and go into our separate companies. But it's absolutely recognized, and I agree that we have a lot of opportunity there that we can, for us to capitalize on.
I think one of the reasons for that was, if you see from a business perspective, all the Honeywell businesses B2B, it does sell directly to customers, right? So we don't have to put our name board somewhere to tell and beat the drum, because we're not a consumer company. And people need to trust our brand and buy our product based upon that. So as a company, there's a necessity to do it from earning business perspective. Promoting your brand is not a very compelling proposition. But your point is absolutely valid. To attract new people, they need to know the goodness of Honeywell. And that's not well articulated to our point. And I think we are making progress, but not where we should be. I think part of the challenge also is that we are also very honest on not trying to earn any reward, because a lot of these are pay to play. You can be best place to work and best for this should you offer somebody a certain amount of a promotional thing or something, which you don't do. You're not going to get any ROI out of it. So I think, but the point is well taken. And I believe in today's world where digital is a way to go and all communications are becoming electronic, it's much easier to accomplish compared to 10, 15 years back where there was far more effort to do that. So we'll keep working it.
So, can we have one more question?
Hello. Hi, my name is Jessica. So again, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. I've had a great experience here at Honeywell. My question to you is, you guys are talking about branding currently right now and branding Honeywell, but I also have a question about how are you guys going to look into kind of promoting people, looking into how well they do their I'm so sorry. I apologize, y'all. How well they're doing. So I look at a lot of people at my work that are underdogs and doing great work. And they're not recognized like they should be recognized. And I've seen them do the GDM models, perform different Six Sigma projects, and they kind of get stopped and they get in a slump because they're not getting the support that they need. So and I've seen Arrow do it really well. So how are we going to take what they do at these other global places and actually make it to where it expands?
Yeah, I think some of that comes down to manager capability, frankly. We've been working quite a lot on manager capability. I think managers are the closest to people's individual work, right? Like from where we sit, there's no way with 100,000 people we can take on the challenge of trying to recognize and reward people for their individual day-to-day work. But having strong managers, they recognize that, hey, this person is doing great work and we should recognize them in the town hall, or we should give them a bravo, or we should communicate what they're doing on a broad basis. We need to equip our managers to have better capability for managing their teams and thinking about those kinds of things. So we've been doing a lot with a program called Leadership Edge. We deploy it across the board. We have the content changes every year, and we've kind of made it mandatory for the last, I guess last year was the first year. We'll pick 3 topics, and every manager has to go through this training. It's 3 hours long. But we've been working on how do we build managers' capability and the ability, the BOE is another tool that we've deployed in recent years, where we want managers to look at feedback from their employees, and something like that hopefully would come out in the manager's BOE, that we want more recognition, that we think, that we want more engagement from the leaders. There's so much value in that tool and helping managers see how they can improve and get better. And so we're getting better and better at using that data. We've seen us introduce the AI tools that help to interpret and translate all of that data and give you actionable ideas and all of that. So I think as a company, we are getting much better at helping equip managers to do the right thing, but unfortunately, we're not there yet in terms of all managers having that level of ability. So you may have in your particular group